right guys, September 26th, and tonight is going to be a little bit different style video. We are here at my house tonight. I'm staying in my garage, and you know, when I think about putting my own touches on the chase and what this looks like, I want to give everyone that look behind the curtain. So the lead up to season, what that's looking like. You know, I'm at my house tonight. I'm trying to get a lot of my gear prepped, you know, with the season only 5 days away at this point in time. So I'm trying to get stuff sorted out. So I thought no better way to go through that process than to run through my gear. Gonna go through the stuff that I carry to the tree with me. And then oftentimes I think it's an eye opener for how much gear we have to take when we're doing this videography side of it. So this is one I'm excited to show everyone about tonight. I'm a gear guy. I like gear breakdowns. Hopefully there's a few items on this list that you'll identify with and maybe add it to your arsenal when you're going into the tree. And also some of the videography stuff, you know, the camera equipment, tree arms, what does that look like? So this is a fun one for me tonight. Hopefully you guys enjoy. So where we're gonna start at tonight is we're gonna talk about the video equipment. I would say I cut my teeth doing a lot of self-filming over the years, so this was just kind of my basic setup. There's some cost-effective components to it, but I really started with video cameras before I really just started to dabble in the DSLRs and the mirrorless cameras. So the camera that I have now, and this is, I've had this for a couple seasons, and even Josh pointed me in the right direction of getting on this Canon XF400. This is something that's used really widely in the outdoor industry. Manual focus camera, ability to manipulate your white balance, really good in low light situations. Definitely gonna have to have a number of batteries associated with this. The cold weather can be a little tough on them, but it's been a really great camera for me. I've had a really good experience with it, and the one thing that's nice about it with so many people using it, there's so much information out there where if you need to learn something, there's YouTube videos, you know, and Josh has been a great resource, or even any of the guys with 41 North. My next camera, this would be my third season having this camera. This is my Panasonic GH5. I love this camera. The reason why I picked this camera is actually because of one of our pro staff members, Kane Gillette. He's somebody that is very skilled with the camera in his hand. So I wanted to make sure I had something that when I needed to have it troubleshooted, I could call customer service. I could call Kane Gillette up and he could walk me through it, which that still happens to this day. I mean, just a few weeks ago, Dave and I, who's behind the camera right now, we're having issues with one of the settings on here and we had to call him and troubleshoot the problem. So it's always good to have, you know, stuff that you're familiar with, but also having friends that are familiar with it, you know, can really help too. And one of the things we ran a lot last year was that we run dual audio on this. So this has a shotgun mic, and it actually has it where we can set up to have a lapel mic or a body mic on us. So that's something that we're constantly looking at audio levels, what that's looking like, because one of the big challenges with filming in the outdoors, right, is that there's never that consistent sound that's associated with it, where we're always trying to catch those crunchy leaves, but then we never want that wind component, you know, bleaching out the sound. And then last but not least, when it comes to cameras, is gonna be this camera right here. And that's the GoPro 11. You know, this is something that has made huge strides over the last several years. Is you know, GoPros and like a lot of those mini cams, you know, when they originally came out, they had such a fisheye look to them. And although they played a role when it comes down to hunting, they've become so far in the audio side of it. This one has a video mod on it, so that really makes the audio levels superior. I have some different attachments that I can include to this, you know, as well. I have a light and some different, you know, stuff that has additional battery life associated with it. Great tool, awesome to always have that second angle. And a lot of times too, if you just see us walking around the farm, working on projects, you know, maybe we're filming a time lapse or something along those lines, we're constantly using these different cameras. And GoPro has been something that I like personally. I like a lot of the apps associated with that come along with those too. But you know, over the last several years, this is something I've really gravitated towards, is being able to have that every single time, not only when I'm going into the woods, but also anytime I'm doing any type of land management. Right now, I just have this clamp mount on here. These are handy. There's all kinds of different mounts out there. They don't have to be from GoPro. I will tell you that the cheaper ones that you buy on these circumstances, they don't seem to last very long. A lot of times these joints will break or you'll have issues with them throughout the season. When we talk about actually mounting it to the tree, I've gone through a couple different variations over the years of, you know, what I actually use when I attach it to the actual tree itself. So this is a 4th arrow tree arm, and I've been really happy with this. I really like the weight of it specifically. It's just a little bit lighter, where a lot of times I'm being mobile when I'm getting out and hunting. So I like this application of this tree arm specifically. Because the thing that's really cool about this one too is that it does have these similar mounts that go on tripods, where this has another 4th arrow arm is what's on here, and this has a little T-Rex arm. So anytime you see us hunting out of the blinds, A lot of times I'm using this. This is just a very small fluid head. This is a 4th arrow fluid head, but we use a lot of Manfrotto fluid heads, and those get pretty heavy, but you know, the bigger you get with cameras, the bigger fluid head you gotta have. So this one I was really happy with. It's very small, compact, get it in and out of these bags, and you know, had a really good experience with it last year. And this T-Rex arm was actually one that I stole this idea from Jeff Dietz. You know, I utilized it when I was over in Illinois hunting with him a few times, and I knew I had to have one, so I got it, of course, our last hunt last year. So when we had our encounter with T-Bone last year, on the last hunt of the season for me, that was the first time I was using this T-Rex arm. Maybe it's a good luck charm too, so there's that side of it. Pretty nifty. Next, we're gonna move on to tree stands and the ladder sticks that I use when I'm doing predominantly my hanging hunting is what we're talking about right now. So the stand that I have here is the Muddy Vantage stand, and this is by far my favorite tree stand that's ever been made. I've used it for a number of years now. And it's very similar to the Muddy Outfitter stand, which they still make, but a little different nuances when it comes down to it. You'll see that this one's definitely showing its age. I've used it for a number of years now. It's got the paint flecking off of it, but it's lightweight. I like the backpack straps associated with it, but the thing I really like about it is that it also has this bracket system, and that was one of the things I got a lot of questions on the other day when we were hanging that tree stand on that pond set, because that was a version of the Vantage stand, is that it comes with these heavy duty brackets. I can put this over top of my head like a satchel when I go up the tree, when I'm hanging my sticks, and then I can put the bracket on with my rope tied onto my waist, and I can just make one trip up the tree where I can hang that first stand. And to me, that's just pivotal, is being able to maximize those trips up and down the tree. So this is something that if it's not broke, you know, don't fix it, where I've really enjoyed this application of this stand. I've tried different ones over the years, but this is something that it's true, it's tested, and I really enjoy, you know, every time I get to go out there, because it's comfortable, lightweight, has a lot of factors that I look for when I'm looking at a stand. The sticks that I'm always using, and these are one of my favorite tools that have ever come out in the outdoor woods themselves, this is the Muddy Quick Sticks. I can't even tell you how many of these I actually have. I have a lot of them because I enjoy them so much, and I think my favorite part about them is they're secure to the tree, and this locking system that they have with the rope system. It's so quick and easy where you know, it takes me a few hanging hunts first thing in the season when I'm working my way up and getting back into, you know, the hanging hunt shape. But once I get this figured out, it's just methodical, where I can throw that rope around the tree, lock it in that locking system, and we can do hanging hunts in, you know, 10, 15 minutes. I actually think there's word on the street that Rye might be getting me a new Muddy harness, because I don't know if he saw that what mine was starting to look like. I was getting beat up a little bit. But this is my Muddy harness. You will see by the looks of it, this has seen some stuff. It's seen some stuff over the years, but I love it. I've never had a bad experience with it. I can get it on and off quick. And then I also feel like I've used a different, you know, harnesses for the actual lineman's rope. This is the most secure that I feel when I'm going up the tree, because especially when I'm doing my hanging hunts, I'm throwing that linesman rope around the tree, and I want to make sure I can lean my weight into it. And I've never felt like when I'm using this harness that I've had any experiences where I'm like, hey, like it's resetting itself, or like I don't feel safe, you know, or I don't feel like I can put all my weight into it, where I've never had that. I mean, I have the original lineman's rope that came with this. I'm still using that to this day, and you know, it doesn't have any fraying or anything associated with it, where I've been really happy with this. That's why I haven't had to buy a new one. So I don't know, even if maybe if Rye gets me a new one, I'll maybe think about it, but this is gonna be a hard one to part with, because there's a lot of memories associated with this guy.
I think you're good luck T-Rex arm, but
yeah.
Good luck on it.
Yeah, I've had some really good hunts with it, man. It's just like stuff like that, where it's like, you know, if you have that hunting coat that you have a lot of memories associated with it, it's kind of a weird thing with hunting equipment, is that you carry the memories, you know, and when you see some of that stuff, where it's just like when you think about that bow, you think about that buck of a lifetime or something along those lines, where some of this stuff that's small, inornate objects, you know, like I just have those memories that I carry with them. The next item I'm going to touch on is optics. Bushnell came out with the new R5 series this year, and I've been really impressed with it. I've been using my rangefinder here in the yard where I've been sighting my bow. Really like the eye relief on that, and that's been something I've been really impressed with so far. And when I say eye relief, I want to make sure when I'm pulling up those optics, I'm getting on them right away. Whatever object I'm looking at off in the distance, I want to make sure I'm getting on that right away. If you've used lower end optics on a rifle or a shotgun or anything along those lines, you're going to notice right away the higher end glass is going to have a really good eye relief. So you're going to be able to get on target quicker, which ultimately could be the difference between success and then going home empty-handed that night. So that's been something I've really liked about the R5 series. This rangefinder is great, compact size, and this is actually the last year or earlier rendition of the bino harness. This will be a hard one for me to part with because I really like the setup. It's got magnets that are built into this, and so I'm sure if you followed along with any of our hunts on Midwest whitetail, this has been a staple for pretty much anybody on the pro staff over the last several years, and even during the off-season stuff too. Like, I mean, this is just such an incredible tool for like when you're out doing any type of scouting, and especially during shed season. I mean, I arguably use this more during shed season than any other time of the year, but this is a tool I'm going to have a hard time parting ways with as well. But it does have the 10x42 R5 binoculars in here too, which these are cool. I mean, they're just super cool. They look awesome, and the eye relief on these two is something I've been really impressed with, and they fit in here very nicely. And the thing that I've always liked about this bino harness is that this has like an actual cleaning cloth in here too, which is cool. And then the other item that I have on my bino harness at all times is that this is something that I don't think you should ever leave the house or wherever you're coming from without, is just making sure that you have a wind indicator of some level. You know, a lot of the guys are carrying milkweed with them for the seeds. I like using the powder, and I'm sure you'll notice several times throughout the fall, like I'm like overly, checking the wind direction constantly, because that's, I think, my biggest, factor that I'm deciding on where I'm going to hunt that night. It's like, oftentimes we have these specific deer that we're targeting. Maybe we know that they're going to be in certain areas during certain times, but it requires the right wind. And so I'm often over-analyzing those wind indications, and just making sure that we're abiding by that when we're out in the woods. So I've started to tuck away some of my stuff in here. All right. So I have 3 Mystery Ranch bags that are in the back of my truck right now. This is actually a bag that's new to me, but I think that this could come right at the top and maybe jump a few of the other bags that I've used in the past, because I like the size of this one. So this is the Treehouse 20. Last year I used the Treehouse 16, and then I used the 38, which I have the 38 right there, which in my experience, we use that as our camera bag most of the time. So if I was self-filming, this would probably be the bag that I would use. I'm gonna go through both of them, but this is the 20, and I really like the size of this because this is gonna allow me to put everything I need as the hunter, knowing that Dave is gonna be the one carrying all the camera gear. So I'm not gonna have any of that stuff in my bag. I'm gonna have my binos and everything else that I have in here currently, probably some extra clothing when it comes down to it. That'll be something I'm always gonna be tucking away, and that's one of the things I like about, before we even get to the inside of this bag, one of the things I wanna touch on is that the straps on this bag itself, because like this one, which is the 20 and the 38, they have killer straps on the outside of this, where last year we used these a ton for strapping the tripods on the outside. We did different times where even we had some of these quick sticks that we attached to the back of the bags. So these straps are great. They get really long, they extend really out really far, and then they're super sturdy, where this is a big difference between low quality packs and high quality packs. Of what these are is that the straps, the zippers, anything associated with these are high-end stuff. These aren't gonna break when you're using them, where we put it to the test last year, and I would say without a doubt, they were excellent throughout the entire season. So this little pocket was really great for being able to put that tripod in there. And I like the fact on this top pouch, where if you do have rainy days, being able to access this one from both the outside and from the inside is great, because there's so many times where we're trying to get some of these items and keep them dry, whether it's a camera, batteries, whatever it is. Having that on the outside like this, being able to have 2-side access is great. And so since I can access this from both sides, I'm going to talk about a few items that I always have in my pack. And this first one I feel like is going to catch people off guard a little bit, and they're not going to really understand why it's in here, but I'll have some explanation to it. That's a roll of duct tape. But the reason I have it in here is that it's more for a medical type thing, where having that type of application for first aid, you know, maybe this isn't the best for like cleanliness standpoint, but you could stop the bleeding if you need it. So I've used it countless times where something that's broke, you know, when I'm out in the actual tree stand or out in the bush or whatever I'm doing. So being able to have this is great. Typically I don't have this big a roll, so I'll split this actually into 2 rolls. That way I can split it into multiple bags or have one in my truck, which I just always have duct tape with me. It just has come in handy like super often without having to carry a bunch of different gauze or whatever it might be, Band-Aids. So this is great. Next item that we always have with us is I always have a bunch of SD cards, which I try to have extra ones for the actual cameras. So a lot of times when we're filming in 4K, you're using some big file sizes. So sometimes, you know, if our interns aren't doing a good job of, you know, clearing those files, you know, I get into a point where we're halfway through a hunt and be like, hey, we only have 10 minutes of footage left. So got to have these. And if we're wanting to check trail cameras, having them with you, that's key for throughout the process. All right, so if I flip this open, one of the things I noticed right away, I remember when I opened this packs originally, when I really didn't have much experience with Mystery Ranch, is I love these inside packs and how it has individual dividers. There's just enough structure to these bags where when I let this stand, it doesn't collapse on itself. You know, that was one of my bad experiences I've had with lower end packs in the past, is that as soon as you take those items out of it, especially like a camera, a tree arm, whatever that might be, it collapses, and then it can be a booger to get this stuff back in here. So I love the fact that it maintains its shape. That's something that was really important to me, is making sure I have a pack that maintains its shape. And you know, the 20 and the 38, those are great examples of that. This is another medical thing, and you'll notice that my vehicles and some of this stuff is going to become like, okay, well, is he crazy about medical stuff? You got to have a plan. You know, I'm a hunter ed instructor. Anytime you're going out in the woods, you need to make sure you have a plan. So does somebody know where you're going? If something did happen, you know, could they find you, you know, type of thing. Like when it comes down to it, that's critical for being able to go out in the bush, which maybe it's a little bit different for us because oftentimes we're going with either a friend or a cameraman, you know, when it comes down to that. So we always have somebody with us. But with that being said, anytime that we're 30 feet off the ground, there's a chance that something could happen. I think we've all have somebody in our life that has been impacted by a tree stand accident. So having a tourniquet in your bag, I think that's just an easy thing you can tuck away. You don't need to be a medical expert to have something like this, but these save limbs, they could save lives. Unfortunately, I've had to apply these a few times in my work scenario, but it is a situation where they will save your life if you need it. So it's just an easy thing to tuck away, which if you look in my truck, I probably have, you know, 6 or 7 of these. These are just cat tourniquets, super cheap. You can buy them on Amazon. Just make sure that they're cat tourniquets. That's a big thing. Make sure they're cat tourniquets. This is just a rope. It always seems like we're tugging another thing up the tree, but most of the time, even just for the hanging hunts, we'll use something similar to this. So we're using this as our bow rope. We're using it to get the stand up and down the tree. But a lot of times I just always have an extra one because it never fails that you go to that tree stand, you haven't hunted in a while, and it doesn't have a bow rope. And it can be really fun to try to get up into the tree with a bow in one hand, and that's situations where it's not safe. So always want to make sure you have an extra bow rope. A few more items, we're done with this pack. So this is the Ozonics. This is their new model, the HR600. I'm excited about this. I haven't used these a ton in the past. I really like the application of Ozonics for the scent control, especially for our garments. I have the closet upstairs in my garage right now. I love that side of Ozonics and not having to wash my clothes constantly, especially during early season when we're getting hot and sweaty and going through that. So this is something that I'm excited to experiment even more with this next year, because they've made some crazy improvements for battery life. And as far as the quiet, if you turn this thing on, it's super quiet, where that was one of the things that we did a lot in the past, where you saw us inverting these upside down. These new HR 600s makes a huge difference in what it has for the volume when it's running. So I'm excited to test this one out. So that'll be something that'll be in my pack without a doubt. And then the last couple items that I have in here, we always have more lights. This is just a small light that a lot of times I'm using this for recovery. These are super cheap. I think this was like $5 on Amazon. But this can actually go on top of a DSLR camera, or a lot of times I'm just using this as a recovery light when I'm out walking around. And then the last thing we have in here is just a thing I'll ever calm. A lot of times I'm just putting this on my boots. So anytime you see me when I'm getting prepped and getting ready to go out to the tree stand or go out to the blind, a lot of times I'm just spraying down my boots. I've had a good experience with that, where that's really the only thing I spray down. And a lot of times I'll put some type of scent control or scent additive on my boots themselves. So I'm trying to mimic, maybe it's just a deer walking out through the grass or whatever that might be, where oftentimes where I'm hunting, that's going to be my biggest scent lever is going to be the bottom of my pants and my boots when I'm going in and out of the stand. So I try to be cognizant of that when I'm going in and out. All right, switching over to the next bag. I'm not going to talk about this one because it has a lot of the same features and I don't have anything in it at this point in time, but this is a 38 and it's just a little bit bigger. Like I said, we used this a lot last year as our actual camera bag. If it was just me going into the stand, this is the pack that I would use. So if I was having to cram everything in there and not having to split it in between 2 different packs, if I had to put all my camera gear, my coats, any type of all those items I just pulled out, this would absolutely be the pack that I would carry. But knowing that I'm gonna have an intern or a Rye or Gavin, whoever it might be, carrying some of that stuff for me, this is gonna be their pack, and this will be my pack that I'll be carrying into the tree this year. Okay. So last but definitely not least is the new bow cases that Mystery Ranch came out with this year. This is the Anchor Point bow case, and this is that Ponderosa color that they have. I love this color. This is something that I really like, that green sagey type color. I've never actually had a bow case before. You know, I've been hunting, especially bow hunting, since I was 14, 15 years old. Never had a bow case. I've always just been a guy who threw it in the back seat, and maybe that's been harder on my bows over the years. I really like this one because I feel like I'm gonna be able to tuck this behind my back seat in my truck and it'll just stay in there all fall. It's got some nice pockets to it and there's all kinds of storage in this. So my initial impressions, I really like it. I do have my bow sitting in here right now. I've been storing it in there just to get accustomed to keeping all that stuff in there. Once again, I noticed that they have those really nice strong zippers that I highlighted before. And just beautiful interior on these. And there sits my Alpha X, which is the new color that they have of the Tombstone color, which is that dark or kind of a gray, which I think almost at times too, which is kind of crazy with the sun, where it can almost seem tan color too, where I sent a picture to Kane the other day and he was like, is that bow tan or is it gray? Which I love the color. I love these flat, solid colors that they've been making. I was a sucker for the Wilderness, for the, can't think of what was the name of the tan color that they came out with, Dave. Do you remember that?
Was it buckskin?
Buckskin. Buckskin was the color of the VTM that I had last year, and that is a sharp looking bow. So I would tell you that the VTM I had last year, I've shot aluminum bows. I think my last 3 bows that I've had has been aluminum, and that's just a personal preference. I like a heavy-handed bow. So I've had the Helix, I had the VTM, and then now I have the Alpha X. Initial impressions, really like it. Shoots very similar to the VTM. I like that component of it. I would say that it's a little bit more center weight when I'm shooting this bow. I like that, still have that heavy hand. And one of the things that's really cool about these this year is that you'll see that these white strings, where that's something I've had a lot of people comment, even when I was getting this bow set up on this year, was that a lot of people were talking about these white colored strings, but it's really just they don't have any dye in them. So this is how they naturally look, and supposedly that makes it faster too. So 1, it looks cool, 2, it's faster. So I'm all for that. So really been impressed with this bow case so far, and I think this is going to be a staple for me moving forward, and just having this in the back seat, tucking my bow in there every single night, and hopefully it'll make the Hoyt guys happy that I'm taking a little bit better care of my bows in the future. They're not all banged up and stuff like that too. So I really like this. So my initial impressions, it's good. She's a little dusty right now. Definitely need to get her washed up, but if you followed any of my story the last couple of years, you'll know that I'm very fond of these coffin bikes. I've really tested them. You know, one of the things that's been part of my story, you know, especially with Area 52, the Goat Hills, is that I have access to properties that are on level B roads. So there's times where access can be difficult. These have been just a complete game changer. I had never had really a bike, you know, I've never really used that prior in hunting. One of the questions I got a lot of times when it came to the bikes is that, what are you doing with it? You know, where are you parking it when you actually get out to the tree stand you want to go to? And we showed that a lot last year, that Ty and I, we'd literally leave these right at the base of the tree. I'd try to tuck them in a brush pile, but oftentimes I just didn't really think it made a difference. You know, as long as it's just out of sight, out of mind, the best as we could. But this is the Mamba. This is my second coffin bike that I've had. The original one I had was the Sportsman. And I actually bought this one from pro staff member Jeff Dietz. So bought this one from him before last year's season, and this one definitely has some torque. A little bit higher end bike compared to what the Sportsman is, and the suspension's a little better. I tell you, it's a little smoother ride than what the Sportsman was. The rack on the back is an addition, and then I'm sure you guys saw the clips last year too, where I was pulling Ty on the wagon on the back of this sometimes. The wagon that I was using is a Rambo wagon, which is up in the top of the garage, but I don't know, if somebody gets a little bit bigger than Ty, like, I don't know that I'm gonna be pulling rye around on this bad boy. So it definitely tested it at some point, you know, last year, but this is something I absolutely love. I can't speak highly enough of it because I think it's just truly changed how I access properties, and knowing too, like, what you can get away with. You know, you can go right by deer. I had that happen countless times where you could see them on your headlamp or anything like that, and they just don't seem to care, you know, if you ride by on something like this. Now, if you stop, they'll run away. But if you just keep riding right by them, it doesn't seem like they care too much. Dave got nervous. One thing a little bit different about riding in the yard is you gotta watch out for dog turds. All right, guys, that's gonna be a wrap for tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed it when we walked through that gear. Hopefully you grabbed a few items that you're gonna add into your pack as you kind of work through that preparation for the season. One of the things that Dave and I were just talking about was that when my next video comes out, we're gonna have some hunts strung together, hopefully. So with season approaching, I'm gonna really focus on honing in those cameras this time of the year and making sure that I understand that October 1st, October 2nd, that first part of the season, I wanna make sure I have a plan. You know, if I'm gonna take a risk and go in after one of these target deer, you know, coming up with that hit list is something I'm still working my way through. You know, last year in 2023, I just feel like I was inundated with all these different targets that I had going into the season, and I felt like there was multiple deer I could have targeted that first part. Where this year's a little different. You know, I had that Werther's buck that showed up a few times. There's a really nice 4-year-old that I don't have a name for yet, but Ty and I encountered him last year a few times down at Area 52. A random, really big deer that looks like an 8 or 9 pointer that showed up just for one night. I got one series of photos of him. October 1st is just a few days away at this point in time. Looking forward to what that's gonna look like. I'm gonna have a hard time not setting the pond set, you know, sometime early season as long as the wind's right. We've kind of foreshadowed that a little bit with last season, what October 1st looked like last year. You know, to date, Pretzel hasn't showed up. That was just such a cool hunt last year to have on October 1st, where that just seems like it's setting up to be an iconic spot on Area 52. But I appreciate you guys coming along for the journey, and you know, the chase truly starts next week on Tuesday.